Rioters occupying the Justice Ministry in the Ukrainian capital are beyond the control of the political opposition. One leader, Vitaly Klitschko, tried to talk the radical activists out of the building, but they refused to leave. Alexei Yaroshevsky now on why some of the protesters are ignoring party orders.
If I have to take a bullet in the head, I'll take a bullet in the head.
The opposition speeches are as fiery as ever, but not all of the protesters are buying it. Not even the commanding presence of Vitaly Klitschko is enough to bring them in line.
Kyiv's Independence Square is still adorned with different color flags of opposition parties, but the biggest question right now is whether they're actually controlling anything at all. There's a widespread opinion now in Ukraine is that their inability to provide crucial decisions led to the violent uprising.
I'm not even listening to them. Everything has already been done by us. We're running the show. They are forced to listen to us.
And now the movement's leaders have passed up the president's invitation to lead the government.
They only say we want revolution now. We offered them to control government, to fight corruption and change the law, but they're refusing it. Their actions are deprived of any logic.
They could not even agree on whether to accept a presidential amnesty for the jailed protesters.
President Yanukovych said he'll release the detained protesters if there's no further resistance in central Kiev, and our position is the same.
We'll only agree to Yanukovych's terms on the release of the protesters if the interior minister orders police not to arrest our people anymore.
They are not politicians. They simply want a result, and fast. And that is a snap reorganization of the country. They're like children who see soldiers marching and try to jump in front of the formation to feel like generals.
A country in revolt is now holding its breath until Tuesday, when big decisions are expected from parliament, including the repeal of an anti-protest law. But judging by the mood on Maidan, it seems there are no compromises that the crowds are ready to listen to. Alexei Yaroshevsky, RT, reporting from Kiev in Ukraine.
And just as authorities are trying to bring a political solution to the table, the most impatient protesters are taking matters into their own hands. Rioters are breaking into government buildings and city halls across the country. This is mostly happening in the west of Ukraine. And it's getting harder for authorities to contain the protest, as RT's Peter Oliver reports.
We saw the convention centre just near to Independence Square, which is right behind me, stormed by rioters. Some quite ugly scenes at times. We saw Molotov-cocktails, rocks, burning tyres, and apparently even a hand grenade in one instance thrown during that standoff that was going on there. Now, the violence that started here in Kiev initially spread to the west of the country to start off with. Now, it's government buildings that have been targeted. They've been subject to sieges by rioters, and in many cases they've just been simply overrun by the numbers that have come out on the streets. In the city of Zaporozhye, we have heard that riot police have retaken the main government building there, and also in the city of Dnipropetrovsk we've seen the government buildings there coming under siege by rioters. The police were able to drive them off, but they are now shoring up their position to prepare for perhaps a further assault there by rioters. It's a scene we've seen across the west of the country, something that's spreading into the central and southern areas of Ukraine. We aren't seeing any movement from those rioters in any way that they would voluntarily remove themselves from any of their barricades. In fact, what we are seeing is that they're building more of those.
The U.S. and the EU say more political restrictions might be used to restrain the authorities in Kiev. But legal expert and political blogger Alexander Markouris says Europe is too out of tune to make such a decision.
I don't think it's actually as close as it makes out. One important change that's happened is that the presidency of the European Union, the rotating presidency, has passed to Greece. And Greece has made it absolutely clear that it's not, frankly, sympathetic to sanctions. So there are divisions within the European Union itself. There are some hardliners, like Mr. Schulz, but I'm not convinced that everybody in the European Union agrees to this. I think the next week may be very important. We will see what happens at the parliamentary session on Tuesday. If there is a political breakthrough there, then perhaps we could see an end to the violence.
RT International is keeping you up to date with the events in Kiev 24/7 on air and through our website, rt.com.